Good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining us for our LEA Special Education Point of Contact monthly webinar. We're going to give folks a few more minutes to join, so I'm going to go ahead and put you on mute. Just as a quick note, a copy of today's presentation is currently not available for download, unfortunately. We're having some technological issues. We will either get that uploaded during the webinar today, or we will email that to you right away at the conclusion of the webinar. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. Again, thank you for joining us today for our monthly SPED POC webinar. Today is May 17th, 2023, and this is our last webinar for this school year. So congratulations to everybody for making it this far. We also want to thank you for joining us today because we know everybody is in park testing. So thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules as usual. So we have a lot of important updates for you today during our webinar. We have some policy reminders and updates. We have IDEA monitoring compliance, monitoring activities and updates on any upcoming activities. Also CPR updates. We have a couple reminders and updates on teaching and learning and professional development opportunities. We also have a couple slides on special populations assessments. We have some new information about transportation as well. And of course, we have our PowerSchool special programs, reminders, and updates. And then at the very end, we'll have some ongoing reminders and announcements that we typically give to you at the end. So I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to our first presenter, Christy Weaver-Harris, for policy reminders and updates.
Good morning, everyone. This is Christy Weaver-Harris. I'm the Policy Manager in the Office of Special Education. As you have questions today, please feel free to pop them in the questions box. We will be keeping an eye on that, and so that we can answer your questions at the end. As a reminder, this is my Chapter 30 Did You Know? And we've already talked about this once this year, but the LEA must conduct a reevaluation of each student at least once every 3 years, unless before the 3 years is up, the LEA and the parent agree that it's unnecessary to do so, or if the LEA or the parent initiates a reevaluation sooner. When a reevaluation is initiated before the triennial reevaluation, the LEA must conduct that reevaluation within 60 calendar days of parental consent. So that's where the new requirement comes in. Previously, we did not have a requirement associated with timeliness for reevaluations, aside from the triennial requirement. Additionally, the LEA must respond to a parent's request for reevaluation within 10 business days by beginning to, if you've decided to move forward, beginning to obtain parental consent, complete your reasonable efforts, and then providing a PWN. If you refuse to proceed with the requested reevaluation, provide them a PWN that also advises them of their ability to essentially demand a reevaluation. If you have any questions about that, please let me know. Next slide, please. All right, I have a good number of reminders for you. So on April 26th of this year, the Early Access to Students with Disabilities data application went live with student information for the upcoming 23-24 school year. This is a click application that OSSE provides to give LEAs access to information on pre-enrolled students with disabilities before you gain access to those student records in systems when the systems switch over, usually around August because of ESY. We give access to a lot of types of points of contacts to this application. But if you have questions about getting access to the click application, your best bet is to start with your LEA data manager, submit an OST ticket. Next slide, please. So the early access to students with disabilities application provides, like I said, a ton of information that we pull from SLED and SEDS. It's intended to help you with planning for the upcoming school year and give you an early preview of the students who are coming into your LEA. This slide gives you an overview of what's available in the application. You can also filter and manipulate the data to meet your needs. You can use this data to help inform decisions around staffing, classroom and cohort assignments, identifying students for whom you may need to submit a TRF when you do have access to their records, training needs, calendaring meetings, all sorts of planning. And as the ever-present reminder, if you download information from the system, you're going to want to delete those downloads on a periodic basis. Rosters and information in the system are updated daily, so information and student enrollments can change. And as I understand it, this data application will not be impacted by the transition to PowerSchool special programs. So when your LEA transitions to PowerSchool, you will still have access to the early access to students with disabilities data application. Next slide, please. I went over these points last month, so I'm not going to belabor this, but prior to the end, these are some tips for closing out your 22-23 school year. Make sure that you are completing reevaluations and annual IEP team meetings that are due over the summer. Complete your necessary documentation and SEDS. So by that I mean service logs, progress reports, PWNs, summaries of performance for students graduating with a diploma. And so make sure you're closing out this school year. Also, while you're doing that, consider the transition to PowerSchool. You need to have finalized documents in the system for those documents to migrate over. Draft documents will not migrate over to PowerSchool special programs. So make sure you're looking at what kinds of draft documents you may have for a student right now and finalizing the ones you need to finalize. Also for your summer responsibilities, you're going to want to identify a point of contact who can respond to records requests from LEAs who are receiving students transferring from your LEA. A lot of LEAs take a look at that early access application all throughout the summer. We encourage you to work together to make sure you're getting appropriate student data transferred across. And for LEAs who serve students ages 3 through 5, make sure you have somebody who can receive transition conference invitations and attend transition conferences for students who are transitioning from IDEA Part C early intervention services, whom either you will get contacted by Part C, Strong Start, or early stages to be attending those meetings. So if your LEA serves 3 to 5-year-olds, make sure there's somebody around to make sure that you are carrying out your obligations to ensure a smooth and effective transition for those students. Next slide, please. And to prepare for the 23-24 school year, make sure that you are submitting your transportation request forms or your TRFs. Monitor the early access to students with disabilities data application. We strongly encourage you to conduct an audit of your LEA SEDS users. You're probably going to be supporting your LEA's data manager in carrying this out. We want to make sure that we get SEDS users and general database users who are no longer with your LEA, who should no longer have access to those systems, pulled out of the system. Ensure that your staff is completing training on the new PowerSchool special programs system. Rita is going to talk about trainings in a minute around that. Consult with your LEA data manager to help support the smooth switchover of your student information system. And be preparing to document the first provision of specialized instruction for students with disabilities who are age 6 and younger. Again, also prepare for the transition from SEDS to PowerSchool special programs and attend OSSE trainings as appropriate. Next slide, please. All right, so preparing for the transition to PowerSchool special programs, which I believe we're just going to be referring to as special programs from here on out. These are some things that I want you to consider as you're supporting your LEA and transitioning over. You're going to want to consult with your LEA's transition POC to develop plans for documentation and training. And by that, I mean completing your documents in SEDS, determining if you want to pull hard copy documents down from SEDS so that you have your own reference points, and then completing training for all of your staff members who need it on the new system. we encourage you to make sure that you have final eligibilities and final IEPs for students who are due within 30 days of your LEA's transition week. So make sure you're anticipating those students who will become non-compliant very quickly after you get into special programs. This is generally just to avoid having to get something completed in the system while you're also learning to use the system. It's not because we are concerned about data migration. We're very confident in that process. This is just to make it easy on you once you get into the new system. And a lot of this is also connected to the LEA obligation to update student records within 5 business days of a change. And that's been in OSSE policy for years, and it was formalized in Chapter 30 this year. So you can see that it's in 5A DCMR 3029.2, that 5-day requirement. Some things that you may want to consider doing as part of that obligation is completing school year 22-23 service logs and progress reports, completing your summary of performance, which is required to be given to the student 60 days prior to graduation. Complete service logs and progress reports to the best of your ability. We know that many LEAs are going to be transitioning into PowerSchool during ESY. We will have supports available for you to be documenting essentially on paper, service logs, progress reports, things like that during the week that you do not have access to them in SEDS or in PowerSchool. But if you are able to complete service logs before you transition over, I encourage you to do it. Make sure that you're uploading assessments, student records, other relevant documentation, or downloading it. Pulling things out of SEDS that you think you may need during that week. Because like I said, when we come back, when you go live in PowerSchool, all of it should be there. And then consider the additional administrative burdens of working in a new system. So consider when you want your staff to be attending trainings during the summer, during the start of school. Make sure you're planning ahead for that. I encourage you during, while you're calendaring out your IEP team meetings for the upcoming school year, consider the extra prep time that it may take for a few reasons, right? When students are transitioned over into PowerSchool, the way that I phrase this is they will not have a PowerSchool IEP. They will have a PDF of their IEP, and their IEP data will be available in their profiles. You will be able to do things like IEP amendments and progress monitoring reports and things like that. We will be pulling data appropriately over to support those functions. But you won't have a tangible, actual IEP document completed in the way that they will as you were doing your annual IEP team meetings during the school year. So while you're doing those IEP team meetings, there's not going to be any pre-populated data. You're going to have to copy all that stuff in. So consider that when you're preparing for those meetings, and when you're having those meetings, as you're planning how long you're going to schedule IEP team meetings for. Consider that you're going to be working in a new system that parents are not going to be as familiar with, that you may not be as familiar with. Next slide, please. As a reminder, OSSE is providing in-person training for certification in the MANT system. This is a physical restraint training program. All of our trainings are provided by the Onyx Therapy Group. If you want more information on our available training dates, I think right now we only have one more training date that's going to be held at OSSE because we have gotten substantial interest from LEAs in hosting in-person trainings at their school buildings. So a lot of those dates have scheduled out. If you are still interested in hosting an in-person training or physical restraint at your school building, please feel free to contact me. We do have available dates, and I'm happy to provide you the information of what it's going to take to schedule those. Some common questions that I have gotten around the restraint trainings are how many people can attend those at one time. Because of the limitations in the MANT system, only 10 people can be trained at one time. So if you're hosting those in your school buildings, plan for 10 attendees from your LEA. The other question that I get a lot is, does this cost anything for you? No. OSSE is paying the cost of this. If you are interested in having this in your school building, you would be providing the physical space and providing some technology and some space for physical restraints. But please feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions about hosting a training in your LEA. Next slide. So we are also launching this spring and then again in this towards the late summer, a new 6-part training series for paraprofessionals and aides serving students with disabilities. So this provides an overview of paraprofessional roles and responsibilities, information on special education, like the principles of special education, background in IDEA, how paraprofessionals can support specialized instruction, curriculum and content knowledge, and then how they can support classroom and behavior management. So this series is ideal for special education paraprofessionals, aides, similar support staff. Again, we're offering it this spring and then again late summer. We will have more information posted on this on the Chapter 30 resource page this week. We had originally scheduled it to start last week, but our vendor became unavailable, so we've had to push out the trainings a little bit. I'm sorry if your LEA had found those trainings and sent folks over to it before we were able to cancel it out of the OSSE training website. If you have any questions about that, please feel free to reach out to me directly. We expect those dates to go up this week. I think that's my last slide.
Thank you, Christy. Okay, this is Karen Morgan Donaldson from IDEA Monitoring and Compliance, and I will be providing you with a couple updates about monitoring activities that are happening now and will be happening over the summer. First, I want to provide information about what compliance reports are currently open in DC CATS. We currently have initial evaluation. That is the one report that is open for most LEAs. We do have one LEA who has an on-site or desktop monitoring report open. So please pay attention to when prong 1 was due, and then also when prong 2 is or was due. You'll also notice that we have secondary transition and reevaluation on this list. We are currently in the 30-day correction window for both of these reports. So the secondary transition 30-day correction window closes tomorrow, May 18th. And the reevaluation 30-day correction window closes on May 24th. If you have any questions about either of these reports that are currently open and in the 30-day correction window, please reach out directly to me. I'd normally send you to Deborah Melville, but she is out of the office. So please reach out to me directly if you are unsure of what the options are for your LEA during the 30-day correction window, and I can guide you through that process. Over the summer, we will have 2 monitoring activities. We will be monitoring for initial evaluation for this current federal fiscal year. So the monitoring time frame will be from July 1st, 2022 to June 30th, 2023. So we are just about to close that federal fiscal year or this federal fiscal year, and we will be monitoring for that entire year. What does that mean for LEAs? That means that if you had an untimely initial evaluation, you will be receiving a preliminary finding within DC CATS, and then you have the 30-day correction window to either appeal that or verify whether or not it was parental delay. Same for C2B timeliness. That will be taking place for the same time period and just a little bit later in the summer. So the initial report for initial evaluation will be released in DC CATS in July 2023. And then the final report will be released in August. And then for C2B timeliness, the initial report will be August and the final will be September. Important note about the transition to special populations. Please make sure you are saving any and all documentation in SEDS prior to your LEA's 0 week. Like Christy said, any documentation that is in draft form will not be moving over. So for the purposes of monitoring, you also want to ensure that all of your LEA's documentation is finalized in SEDS prior to your LEA 0 week. Okay, Special Education Performance Report, better known as SEPR. Okay, we are going to have one more office hours prior to the release of SEPR, and that's taking place next Friday, Thursday, May 25th at 3 p.m. If you would like to attend, just shoot me a quick email and I will send you a Teams invite. It's a pretty informal office hours. I'm really there to answer any questions you might have about SEPR and how I can assist with your LEA. In next month, June, LEA's initial CPR will be released in QuickBase. For those of you that have been here, you are familiar with QuickBase, and that is how we have released IDEA determinations in the past. Because CPR is taking the place of determinations, CPR will be released via QuickBase. So stay tuned on access to that in the next couple weeks. So from June to September, this is going to be the time period, kind of like a corrections clarification window, data verification window, all of the above. This gives LEAs the time to review their data, review their CPR score, and make an appeal within the QuickBase application. Again, more information to come about that, but I'm just laying out the time frame for the CPR rollout. And then once the appeal window closes in September, this is when final LEA CPR reports will be shared with LEAs, but also released to the public on OSSE's website. Okay, so again, I encourage as many of you as possible to attend the office hours next Thursday. If you're unable to make that particular time, please send me an email and we can set something else up. I want to make sure that we are giving everybody as much information as possible prior to the initial release. Okay, moving on to teaching and learning reminders and updates. OSSE's multi-tiered system of supports, community of practice. This is a comprehensive system of academic, social, and emotional supports aimed at giving LEAs support on helping LEAs improve learning outcomes for all students. So OSSE is excited to start this community of practice for educators and leaders to support in the understanding and implementation of this practice. So participants of the community of practice will engage in the following ways. We'll connect with other educators at various phases of MTSS implementation, share experiences, strategies, innovation, and provide support. Identify and problem solve barriers and problems of practice, and also develop and review MTSS implementation resources. So these sessions will be offered monthly through June 2023 and are open to all DC educators interested in sharing knowledge, exploring best practices, and developing resources on MTSS. There is a link on this slide where you can register. If you do have any additional questions, please contact Angela Okinawa, MTSS, and her email is right there. In addition, OSSE has a landing page. This is an opportunity for LEA staff to learn about OSSE's dyslexia bill. The landing page offers an overview of DC Law 23191, which is Addressing Dyslexia and Other Reading Difficulties, Amendment Act of 2020. So the page includes the 22-23 school year approved kindergarten through second grade universal screeners and the universal literacy screener guidance. So OSSE's three-part dyslexia awareness course is ideal for all educators who serve students in kindergarten through grade 8, who lead and support instruction around literacy and language development. So participants can earn up to 16 professional learning units, or PLUs, for completion of all 3 modules. So if you have any questions about this, you can reach out to Selena Kettleson, and her email is on this slide. There's also a link here for to register as well. Okay, for additional PD opportunities, there is a teaching and learning PD bulletin. You can subscribe by using the link on this slide. Find registration links for all upcoming PD sessions in the most recent TAL PD bulletin. Again, the links are available on this slide. If you have any trouble accessing these links, and again, the PowerPoint, the PDF version is not included in the handout because we had some issues with that, but we will be emailing that to all participants after the webinar, at the conclusion of the webinar. Okay, and these are two slides of the same thing, so I'm going to go to this one. OSSE is pleased to share this opportunity, which is our micro-credentials. It's available to all educators, especially those in general education who serve students with disabilities, and also those serving in special education who are looking to increase skills and knowledge. This is also a great course for administrators and service providers. This is a completely asynchronous learning opportunity hosted in OSSE's new learning management system. Any questions about this, please reach out to Selena. You can also, I will put a link to this in the chat as well for the registration. And again, registration is ongoing. Okay, we have two slides about special populations, assessments, reminders, and updates. Most of these windows, testing windows are closing. Let's see. So online testing for PARC will be ending May 26th. And then the paper testing for students with accommodations only is ending on the 19th of May. So the assessment team is wrapping up the 22-23 school year administration cycle. So we encourage you to please attend the Next Generation Assessment meeting scheduled for Tuesday, June 13th. If you need to register or you would like more information, please use this address, this email address, to either register or ask more questions. Okay, I am now going to hand it over to Rita Larkins, who will be providing transportation reminders and updates.
Thank you, Karen, and good morning, everyone. I'm just providing a couple of quick updates for you on transportation. As you all know, I think most people are pretty aware that we had some recent enhancements to the IDS transportation request tool, and that was back in March. And so some of those enhancements include the ability to update individual student records and also transfer between schools within a single LEA during the next school year transition. So you will continue to find those updates that are available in our new IDS tool for transportation. Next slide. So just as a reminder, those calendar submissions, OSSE will continue to utilize information that the LEA is providing for eSchool Plus, for SLIMS and eSchool Plus, to reduce the entry on LEAs for this information. So within that calendar module, LEAs will have the ability to include any kind of inclement weather, create a single calendar, or copy calendars across multiple schools. And then this last slide, just around transportation, I was just giving you a little more information on the data elements where we are collecting as a source for these calendar submissions. So where you can find the school name and the source of that information. The first and last days of school, as well as non-instructional days, are all found in eSchool Plus. So LEAs will need to enter the data for the elements below, inclement weather, early dismissal, and you can see a number of those options there available. I think most people are very familiar with this slide and what the updates are requiring. So reasons for submitting your calendars, additional bell times, all of that can be updated in your calendar submissions. As I transition topics just a little bit here, I'm going to now talk about the special PowerSchool special programs and give you some reminders and updates. I know a lot of you have been with me in trainings over the last couple of weeks, so I'm going to give you some updates, some of which I may have shared in trainings. So first, let's talk about migrating student data from our current system SEDS over into special programs. And as I talk about which students will be migrated into special programs, going right back to what Christy said earlier in today's broadcast, that we are migrating any student who within the last 5 years had a special education event. And so we're going to define, what those events are, which are consent, referral, eligibility, IEP, a discontinuation, a non-eligibility determination, or Medicaid parental consent. All of that is considered a special education event. So any student that has had at least one of those events and is age 35 or younger at the start of the LEA's 0 week. And I'll go into the 0 week in just a moment. So as Christy was saying, those finalized documents, that data that is contained, all of that will be migrated into special programs. Now, the data that is not being migrated, obviously some things are not coming over, right? So the data that is not being migrated into special programs, OSSE will continue to maintain all of that data in our own servers, so that if LEAs need access to student data that was not migrated, you'll need to create an OST ticket, and then that student data will be uploaded into the LEA's box account. The SLA will vary based on the nature of the request, what information you're requesting. So that's what will happen with students or student data that is not being migrated during this process. Now let's talk about the 0 weeks. Think about the 0 weeks as when your LEAs will be transitioning from SEDS into special programs. This question has come up a couple of times during trainings. We will not be running dual systems at any point in this process. So let's talk now about your 0 week. Displayed on your screen right now are those LEAs that will transition in that first phase of 0 weeks. So from 626 to 629, the LEAs that you see listed on your screen right now will be in that first wave of transition over to special programs. That's week 1. In our 0 week 2, your LEA is displayed on this screen for 0 week 2. You will transition to special programs from 717 to 721. So the LEAs that are in group 2 are currently displayed on your screen. In 0 week number 3, this is a very large group, and these LEAs will migrate over from 8.7 to 8.11. I know some people are trying to write things down and screenshot it. No need. We will be following, providing this PowerPoint at the end of today's broadcast. And in our last slide, this is our 4th 0 week, and that will occur between 8:14 and 8:18 during that week. And these are the LEAs that will be moving over during that 4th 0 week. Now, this shouldn't come as a surprise to folks. I know that your teams are already working with our OSSE team, getting your 0 weeks together and what that transition actually looks like. Next, I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the training updates. Now, I mentioned this in our last, if you've been attending trainings with me over the last week, I mentioned that we've made some updates to hopefully make it easier for you to navigate the courses that we have available. What you're looking at right now is a special programs course matrix. And this shows you on the far left, it's giving you the course name. So this is the order that special programs courses should really be completed. End user experience is required for all other training courses. This is your basic how to navigate, where things are found, what does that mean? What does this button do? That's what end user experience covers. So once the users are able to complete end user experience, they should proceed with the rest of the courses as listed under course name and in that order. So across the top of your screen, you'll see the different roles in special programs and whether or not that course applies to that person. So hopefully that'll be a little bit more clear as you are trying to get folks in training and registered for the different courses. Another change that you will see, we have all of our upcoming courses. We have a end user experience that's happening this afternoon. It's on the OSSE training registration calendar, but you'll see all of these courses happening over the next few weeks. We'll have a break on Friday, and then we'll be right back at it Monday through Thursday in delivering many of these training sessions. An important update. All of the courses that you see on your screen right now are available in the OSSE training registration site. In my next slide, the change that will be happening is that we will be migrating all special programs trainings over to OSSE LMS by the end of May. So starting in anything that you want to register for in June, that registration will take place in OSSE LMS. You'll register for the course, you'll get your links there, and you'll also have access to all of the recorded material, the recorded session, as well as any PowerPoints and handouts that we have available for our participants. So coming in June, all of the training will be moved over into the OSSE Learning Management System. You'll be able to register for all of the special programs courses that are happening there, in addition to the in-person course that we will do in June. And I'm going to turn it back over to Karen.
Thank you, Rita.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up with reminders and announcements. Christy?
This is just a reminder that almost a year ago, Chapter 30 went into effect. It is a new regulations, not making substantial changes in practice, many changes in wording. If you'd like to access the regulations, they're available on our website, and we also have some additional resources. This slide continues to say that we have a seclusion and restraint requirements training, and we will post it soon. But when you are looking for information and resources related to guidance, trainings for Chapter 30, trainings for special education regulations, I would strongly encourage you just to refer to that Chapter 30 resource site. Just a reminder.
Thank you, Christy. Just as a reminder, as you are thinking about your professional development for the beginning of next school year, OSSE will continue to provide LRP's special education law training modules to all LEAs. So as a quick note, we are in the process of building out a scope and sequence for these trainings to curate these for you based on participant need. So please stay tuned for more information about this over the next month. You know, via email and LEA Look Forward, but basically what we're trying to do is make this resource easier for you to use because it is a great resource, so we want to make sure that we are supporting you in that. And then, of course, we will continue to provide special ed connection to all LEAs, LRP's special ed connection that provides any and all updates and background that you might need about IDEA. And as teams prepare for the end of 22-23 school year, we would like to remind you of 2 tasks related to child outcome summary for early childhood special education. So first, OSSE will be conducting the second cost data checkpoint. LEAs are asked for this checkpoint by what you're being asked to do is confirming that every child participating in an early childhood special education program has the entry data in DC CATS. If you have any trouble accessing DC CATS, go ahead and let me know or Dawn Hilton. Schedule team meetings to discuss the progress of students and the progress that they have made since the start of their special education program in 3 functional areas. And then for children who have left your LEA during the school year, who will be prompted for kindergarten, LEAs must submit extra data in DC CATs. Secondly, LEAs should prepare to receive new and active referrals for children under the age of 6 who are enrolling in your LEA for the next school year as soon as this week. So please remember to acknowledge new referrals and SEDS within 3 days of receipt, participate in all Part C transition meetings, and make sure that these children have a finalized IEP by their 3rd birthday. Additionally, we would like to remind you that all related activities to the initial evaluation and IEP process must continue during your LEA's SEDS 0 week from the migration from SEDS to PowerSchool. Any questions about COTS or early childhood referrals, you can reach out to me or Dawn Hilton. Okay, if you missed a webinar at any point during the school year, you can visit our webpage and you can watch previous webinars. You can also download the resources and materials that were provided. A recording of this webinar and slides will be posted to the webpage above within 1 week of the live webinar. And our next slide typically gives you information about our upcoming SPED POC webinar, but this is our final webinar for this school year. So this is the conclusion of the series. OSSE will announce the new series for next school year over the summer. So please stay tuned to OSSE's LEA Look Forward. Also, please be on the lookout for more information about start of schools for special education as well. To subscribe to OSSE's LEA Look Forward, please contact OSSE Communications at, and here's the email, and provide your first name, last name, and email address. And our last slide is our survey. So if you could please take 2 minutes, go ahead and use your camera on your phone to scan this this box here. I don't even know what it's called, but go ahead and it will take you directly to SurveyMonkey. And it's just a few questions about our webinar today, and also just our webinar in general. We really value your feedback. We do look at it every month. So please provide any and all feedback that you have, and we will take that into consideration because this webinar is for you. So that's just about it. We're going to go ahead and say thank you and check our questions to see if we have any that we would like to address live on the air. Christy,
Sure.
do we have any questions?
We got some questions about PowerSchool issues.
Okay.
Someone asked if the communication log will be migrating over to special populations. Yes, it will. And I think we're going to be releasing some more information on what exactly you can expect migration-wise. But yes, the communications log will transfer over into a student profile so you can see all previous communications or all those logs. Someone had a question about the Foundations of Special Education training series. If you have questions about that, please contact Stephen Hamlin in Teaching and Learning. I think he's your best contact. Unfortunately, there were a bunch of conflicts today, so a lot of the usual folks who attend this webinar with us were not able to attend today. And Teaching and Learning is spread very thin today across a bunch of in-person activities. So those are ramping back up at OSSE. But Stephen's email is steav as in Victor en .hamlin HAMLIN @dc.gov. Someone asked about updated training schedules for PowerSchool special programs. I'm not sure if that email has gone out yet. Rita, do you know?
It has not gone out. We're actually in the process right now of updating that in LMS. So that's where you'll see the updated schedule.
Okay, so if you're looking for updated training dates, check the LMS first, and the email I think will be clarifying that also. A lot of folks have asked about slides for this week. Unfortunately, the system wasn't allowing us to upload or update the existing handout before the training. So we'll go ahead and email it to you guys directly at the conclusion of the webinar. I think that is, I think that's it. There's a couple of specific questions that I will answer in the chat directly that I don't think the larger group needs. But if you have any other questions, please feel free to put them in. We'll give you a couple more minutes to do that. Oh, Felicia, thank you for reminding me. There was a question about in-person trainings for PowerSchool. Yes, we will be holding some in-person trainings, I believe, in June for PowerSchool. Rita, is that correct that they're in June?
Yes, that is correct. And I think I can give you can I share the date? Because I know people are asking for that. The date is Thursday, June 15th. It'll be eligibility and IEP, but you will see that in LMS. But that's the date, June 15th, Thursday. I don't know if Kara is still on the line. So no, Kara, that's not correct. There will still be trainings over the next 2 weeks. Just the location of where you register for them will be changing.
Okay, it looks like most folks have logged out. We'll stay on the line, and if people are still asking questions in the questions tab.